caused him to, it ended up being a big favor for me on the campaign, lose his mind. You know, the earpiece that he had in, he was screaming at the people who were the producers in his ears, saying it was distracting him as he was engaged in this debate with me. It was such an uncomfortable moment for everybody involved, including anybody watching it, that it ended up being, the New York Times reported the next couple of days later, the catalyst for Don Lemon actually getting fired by CNN. And so I had a few interactions like that started to kind of increase the steam behind people at least paying attention to my candidacy. And things went on from there.
Did you know a baby's heart begins to beat at just 3 weeks? At 5 weeks, that heartbeat can be heard on ultrasound, and this can sometimes be their only defense in the womb. That's where Preborn steps in. Preborn rescues 200 babies every day from abortion simply by providing mothers with an ultrasound. After hearing her child's heartbeat and seeing its perfectly formed body in the womb, she is twice as likely to choose life. By 6 weeks, the baby's eyes are forming. By 10 weeks, a baby is able to suck his or her thumb. Preborn needs our help to save these precious lives. For just $28, you could be the difference between the life or death of a child. And if you become a monthly sponsor, you'll receive stories and ultrasound pictures of the lives you helped save. All gifts are tax-deductible, and 100% of your donation goes towards saving babies. To donate, dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 baby. Or go to preborn.com/Jordan. That's preborn.com/Jordan.
So let me ask you about that. So I want to know what other moments went viral, right? So that's a really interesting one, because there's two things about that I find particularly interesting. The first is the way that these mainstream legacy media journalists set up the people that they're interviewing. So the game seems to be, and this has happened to me many, many times, the game is very straightforward. The game is, we will poke and prod at you with ill-informed but provocative opinions, hoping that by being as annoying as possible, you'll say something fatally stupid, demolish your reputation online, and elevate my reputation, the journalist, as an investigator who can then walk away with, like, your scalp, so to speak, on his belt. Now, that's the kind of interview you face, where every single word the interviewer utters is a verbal trap. Okay, but my experience has been that if you keep your head during that interchange and you don't play the game, so you don't say anything stupid, you don't apologize, you don't get upset, that can turn viciously in your favor. And yes. You said, okay, and so that's interesting. So I'd like to see your thoughts on that. And then I'd also like to know what other things you did in the alternative media and direct-to-consumer, direct-to-voter model that also went viral. You know, some of that's chance, right? If you put out 50 clips, you're going to get a Pareto distribution of effect. But did you start to see a pattern for the clips that you got? Okay, so let's unwrap that. Let's start with the gotcha journalism, first of all.
Well, the gotcha journalism, so my strategy ended up being, and it wasn't really a strategy, I think it's sort of how I'm wired. First was to do exactly what you said, just rationally process exactly what they're telling you and respond rationally, as the person on the other side increasingly loses their mind because you're not doing what they expected or planned or set you up to do, which in turn, I think, makes them look, far more illogical as a consequence when they were actually taking the ruffian populist Republican to try to make fry of them. Even for their own audience, they end up looking like the less reasonable ones. So I went to the Breakfast Club, had a major viral exchange there where a woman, she was pressing me hard on the fact that I had only ever really had major accomplishments in the business world, that had never been in public service, with utter unawareness that the last, and I believe, successful president of the United States, Donald Trump, came with a very similar background. And I think she was frustrated that I wasn't falling into her traps. And then she ended up giving a soliloquy about her experience in 6th grade, where she put together a coalition for lunch money or something like this, which to her own audience, which is a largely left of center audience, broadly panned, saying that we don't want to really hear about your 6th grade experience. We understand that somebody who has accomplished things in the business world can at least have a legitimate case for having his ideas heard. This is coming from the left. Don Lemon's firing. I had an exchange with Chuck Todd where he said, how can you have the level of certainty that there are two genders? And I explained in the manner of somebody who happens to have a biology degree, which I don't usually like using. You don't need a biology degree to know something about biology. You don't need to have a Harvard degree to be able to have standing to speak on a subject of science. But I have those things. And for an audience that particularly wrongfully elevates their attachment of value to those degrees, I decided to use that in my favor and broke down for him. Here's what two X chromosomes mean. Here's what an X and a Y chromosome mean. And that exchange went viral as well. And I think this one was more by chance.